and I'm the founder, chairman, and chief executive officer of Izone Technologies Philippines. I'm going to take a couple minutes to start our introduction corporate video to just give you some background of why we're here and how we continue to grow the company for the years to come. We initially opened Izone Technologies in Manila in February 2007. It is currently at the end of 2013, and we're looking forward to expansion into the new year of 2014. We've had many great employees, we've had many great projects, we've had many great things to brag about over the years. This corporate video is to show you and give you an idea of what our expectations are. So there's no misunderstandings if you come to work for us. And if we should extend you an offer, and you should be able to get through the rigorous testing and interviewing policies that we have here at Izone. There are 4 or 5 very high-performance people that will be shown in this video. Some of which are you've been known to hear their name many, many times over the years, like Bill Gates, Steve Jobs, etc. God rest his soul, Mr. Jobs is gone. And there are some Filipinos also, very, very high-performance people that have been very, very successful. But the people that we're going to talk about in the video, or you're going to hear after me, are people that started with nothing and built something. They were high performance. They always had high benchmarks. Myself, I started in the barrio of East Los Angeles, and I now live in a storybook 15th century castle in Scotland. Rags to riches, you could say, but just as the other people that are going to be in this video. One particular person that I personally mentored in this video is Klaus Kleinfeld. Klaus Kleinfeld is currently the CEO of Alcoa, a Fortune 500 company, and prior to that he was CEO of the 20th largest company in the world, Siemens, which is a very large German company with about 500,000 employees and revenues of about 100 billion. I mentored him for 8 years. He came to me with the goal as a middle manager in Siemens Healthcare Division to become a senior executive on the board of directors of Siemens, and ultimately in February 2005 he was appointed CEO. We've had a lot of success stories here, really too many to count. Our current acting general manager started with us in accounting and is now acting general manager, soon to be general manager. And she went up the ranks. We have many others that you will meet once you're a member of the Izone team. But the most important thing, and the reason for this video, the reason that I get up at Saturday morning to dress like this is my uniform in America, this is not my uniform here in the Philippines or in Asia, is to show you that we have higher standards. We have high benchmarks. We expect the very best from you, and the people that you're going to hear in this video are people that have had high standards all their lives. We have the bar high because we hold you accountable, we give you the responsibility, and we hold you accountable. But we also give you the latitude to grow. Some of you will be in positions of management, some of you won't. The people that join us that are not in the positions of management have the opportunity to join the positions of management. And that's what's important about Izone. Virtually all our senior people are people that were hired for something else. Now, I want you to listen carefully. Good luck in the testing, good luck in the interviewing process, and more importantly, good luck and good fortune for you and allowing Izone to help fulfill your dreams. Thank you very much.
One of the keys to Apple is Apple's an incredibly collaborative company. And so, you know how many committees we have at Apple?
No.
0. We have no committees.
No committees.
We are organized like a startup. One person's in charge of iPhone OS software. One person's in charge of Mac hardware. One person's in charge of iPhone hardware engineering. Another person's in charge of worldwide marketing. Another person's in charge of operations. We're organized like a startup. We're the biggest startup on the planet. And we all meet for 3 hours once a week, and we talk about everything we're doing, the whole business. And there's tremendous teamwork at the top of the company, which filters down to tremendous teamwork throughout the company. And teamwork is dependent on trusting the other folks to come through with their part without watching them all the time, but trusting that they're going to come through with their parts. And that's what we do really well. And we're great at figuring out how to divide things up into these great teams that we have and all work on the same thing, touch bases frequently, and bring it all together into a product. We do that really well. And so what I do all day is meet with teams of people and work on ideas and solve problems to make new products, to make new marketing programs, whatever it is.
And are people willing to tell you you're wrong?
Yeah.
I mean, other than snarky journalists. I mean, people that work for you.
Oh, yeah. No, we have wonderful arguments.
And do you win them all? Or?
Oh, no, I wish I did. No, see, you can't. If you want to hire great people and have them stay working for you, you have to let them make a lot of decisions, and you have to be run by ideas, not hierarchy. The best ideas have to win.
So,
otherwise, good people don't stay.
But you must be more than a facilitator who runs meetings. You obviously contribute your own ideas.
I contribute ideas, sure. Well, why would I be there? You have to have a lot of passion for what you're doing, and it's totally true. And the reason is because it's so hard that if you don't, any rational person would give up. It's really hard, and you have to do it over a sustained period of time. So if you don't love it, if you're not having fun doing it, and you don't really love it, you're going to give up. And that's what happens to most people, actually. If you really look at the ones that ended up being successful, unquote, in the eyes of society and the ones that didn't, oftentimes it's the ones that are successful loved what they did so they could persevere when it got really tough. And the ones that didn't love it quit because they're sane, right? Who would want to put up with this stuff if you don't love it? So it's a lot of hard work, and it's a lot of worrying constantly. And if you don't love it, you're going to fail. So you got to love it. You got to have passion. And I think that's the high order bit. The second thing is you've got to be a really good talent scout, because no matter how smart you are, you need a team of great people, and you've got to figure out how to size people up fairly quickly, make decisions without knowing people too well, and hire them, and see how you do and refine your intuition, and be able to help build an organization that can eventually just build itself. Because you need great people around you.
We actually talked about it in an article in, I think, 1977 was the first time it appears in print, where we say a computer on every desk and in every home, and actually we said running Microsoft software. If we were just talking about the vision, we'd leave those last three words out. If we were talking an internal company discussion, we'd put those words in. And it's very hard to recall how crazy and wild that was, on every desk and in every home. At the time, you have people who are very smart saying, why would somebody need a computer? Even Ken Olsen, who had run this company, Digital Equipment, who made the computer I grew up with, and that we admired both him and his company immensely, was saying that this seemed kind of a silly idea that people would want to have. In the early days, if you said a computer on every desk in every home, and you'd say, okay, how many homes are there in the world? How many desks are there in the world? Can I make $20 for every home, $20 for every desk? You could get these big numbers. But part of the beauty of the whole thing was we were very focused on the here and now. Should we hire one more person? If our customers didn't pay us, would we have enough cash to meet the payroll? We really were very practical about that next thing, and so involved in the deep engineering that we didn't get ahead of ourselves. We never thought, how big we'd be. I remember when one of the early lists of wealthy people came out, and one of the Intel founders was there. The guy who ran Wing Computers actually was still Wang was still doing well. And we thought, boy, if the software business does well, the value of Microsoft could be similar to that. But it wasn't a real focus. The everyday activity of just doing great software drew us in. And some decisions we made, like the quality of the people, the way we were very global, the vision of how we thought about software, that was very long term. But, other than those things, we just came into work every day and wrote more code and, hired more people. And it wasn't really until the IBM PC succeeded, and perhaps even until Windows succeeded, that there was a broad awareness that Microsoft was very unique as a software company, that these other companies had been one-product companies, hadn't hired people, couldn't do a broad set of things, didn't renew their excellence, didn't do research. So we thought we were doing something very unique, but it was easily not until 1995 or even 1997 that there was this wide recognition that we were the company that had revolutionized software. When I was very young, I hadn't been exposed to computers, so I was mostly just reading, doing math, learning about science, and I wasn't sure what my career would be. I knew I loved learning about things. I was an avid reader, but it was when I was 12 years old that I first got to use a computer, actually a very limited machine by today's standards. But that definitely fascinated me when I was intrigued by figuring out what it could do and what it couldn't do. And some friends and I spent lots of time. The teachers got intimidated, so we were on our own trying to figure it out. Actually, we gave a course on computers to the other students. And it became, a fascination where we got paid for doing computer work and talked about forming a company. But there was kind of a magical breakthrough when the computer became cheap and we could see that everyone could afford a computer. That was much later, but that's what got us to really get together and create a company. Microsoft software was at the center of the personal computer revolution, in particular the creation of a software market where you went out to lots of companies and encouraged them to write software for different applications, mundane applications, wild applications. That idea that you would encourage people to be creative and build software, and there'd be a whole industry around that. Microsoft believed in that, and no one else did. And so we got that going, and that's led now to where you have all these great choices, and it just keeps getting better and better. And it's because of the volume of machines out there, it can be sold very, very inexpensively. So that whole bootstrap, getting the industry going, making it personal, making there be lots of software, that's what we are the most proud of.
I learned an awful lot in the Marine Corps, particularly about, I think, how to treat people, lead people, which has played a big role in FedEx. A big part of the employee relations systems and all that we have at our company came from my experience in the service. The Marine Corps is the best when it comes to teaching people how to lead other folks, and so it had a profound experience on me. Some bad, some good. When I was in the Marine Corps as a lieutenant, I had come up from a good background and went to a fine university at Yale. I wasn't exactly exposed to folks that were in the blue-collar professions and occupations, and then here I was in the Marine Corps and became a platoon leader, and I was surrounded by kids like that. I maybe was 3 years older than they were. I was 21, they were 18, but these were youngsters from very different backgrounds than I was. Blue-collar backgrounds, steel workers and truck drivers and gas station folks, and there we were out in the countryside in Vietnam, living together, eating together, and obviously going through all sorts of things. I think I came up with a very, very different perspective than most people that end up in senior management positions about what people who wear blue collars think about things and how they react to things and what you should do to try to be fair to those folks. So in that regard, it was an invaluable experience, and a great deal of what FedEx has been able to accomplish was built on those lessons. In retrospect, it was ridiculous to try to put this system together, which required so much upfront money and required changing a lot of government regulations, but I didn't know that at the time. And I think probably my experience in the service, where the currency of exchange in FedEx was just money. You know, it wasn't people's arms and legs or lives, and so my perspective on it was perhaps a bit more, I don't know how you'd say it, I was willing to take a chance, because losing wasn't the worst thing in the world that could happen to you. We decided a long time ago that percentages were not acceptable to our customers. In other words, 99% sounds great unless you're the 1% who we don't deliver for. So we never talk about percentages. We built a management system which measures problems on an absolute basis. And the secret is, as traffic or volume increases, the number of complaints have to go down on an absolute basis. In other words, we've got to get better and better year after year. As time changed and markets changed and people's expectations changed, we changed with them. For example, when it became obvious that people wanted to interface with FedEx electronically, many years before people were doing this, we built an electronic interface system that allowed them to do business with us. When the internet came on the horizon, we built versions of that allowed people to interface with FedEx over the internet, and now there are, you know, millions of people doing business with FedEx every day electronically. It's not like we're carrying sand and gravel. You know, we're carrying chemotherapy drugs and important manuscripts and electronic parts and pieces for airplanes that are grounded. So when we pick it up and say we're going to have it there early the next morning, I mean, we have to deliver. There's nothing else to it. So putting the guarantee in place was much more important internally than it was externally, because most of our customers, based on the experience they've had with us, they believe we'll deliver. But when we said to all of the employees, you know, this is guaranteed. If we don't get it there, the reason I never lost confidence is because I never believed that the consequences of losing were as bad as some other people might have thought. You know, oh my goodness, I've lost my money or what have you. I mean, I just wasn't motivated along those lines. And I was very, very, very sure that what we were doing was extremely important and was destined to be successful. So that's the definition, I think, of an insane person or a zealot. And most entrepreneurs, I think you would find, have that sort of green wire laid in there just a little bit crosswise, and they begin to get focused on something, and they believe in the idea or themselves far beyond what they probably should. That binds everybody else together. And successfully navigating from a mostly national economic structure to now a global structure with different types of cultures and governments and what have you. I mean, all you have to do is pick up the newspaper and see it every day. It's going to be important that the United States and FedEx, every year that goes by, does better in the way we deal with other cultures and is respectful of other people's points of view and makes a contribution and doesn't become one of the problems in the world.
The first sort of initial startup capital for Amazon.com came primarily from my parents, and they invested a large fraction of their life savings in what became Amazon.com. And you know, that is was a very bold and trusting thing for them to do, because they didn't And my dad's first question was, what's the internet? Okay, so he wasn't making a bet on this company or this concept. He was making a bet on his son, as was my mother. So, and I told them that I thought there was a 70% chance that they would lose their whole investment, which was a few $100,000. And they did it anyway. And I thought I was giving myself triple the normal odds, because, there's really, if you look at the odds of a startup company succeeding at all, it's only about 10%. Here I was giving myself a 30% chance. Went to my boss and said to him, I'm going to go do this crazy thing, and I'm going to start this company selling books online. And this is something that I had already been talking to him about in a sort of more general context. But then he said, let's go on a walk. And we went on a 2-hour walk in Central Park in New York City. And the conclusion of that was this. He said, this actually sounds like a really good idea to me, but it sounds like it would be a better idea for somebody who didn't already have a good job. And he convinced me to think about it for 48 hours before making a final decision. And so I went away and was trying to find the right framework in which to make that kind of big decision. And I'd already talked to my wife about this, and she was very supportive and said, look, you can count me in 100%, whatever you want to do. It's true, she had married this kind of fairly stable guy in a stable career path, and now he wanted to go do this crazy thing, but she was 100% supportive. So it really was a decision that I had to make for myself. And the framework I found, which made the decision incredibly easy, was what I called, which only a nerd would call, a regret minimization framework. So I wanted to project myself forward to age 80 and say, okay, now I'm looking back on my life. I want to have minimized the number of regrets I have. And I knew that when I was 80, I was not going to regret having tried this. I was not going to regret having wanted, trying to participate in this thing called the internet that I thought was going to be a really big deal. I knew that if I failed, I wouldn't regret that. But I knew the one thing I might regret is not ever having tried. And I knew that that would haunt me every day. And so when I thought about it that way, it was an incredibly easy decision. And I think that's a very good, it's if you can project yourself out to age 80 and sort of think, what will I think at that time? It gets you away from some of the daily pieces of confusion. I left this Wall Street firm in the middle of the year. When you do that, you walk away from your annual bonus. And that's the kind of thing that in the short term can confuse you. But if you think about the long term, then you can really make good life decisions that you won't regret later. Stress primarily comes from not taking action over something that you can have some control over. So if I find that some particular thing is causing me to have stress, that's a warning flag for me. What it means is there's something that I haven't completely identified, perhaps in my conscious mind, that is bothering me, and I haven't yet taken any action on it. I find as soon as I identify it and make the first phone call or send off the first email message or whatever it is that we're going to do to start to address that situation, even if it's not solved, the mere fact that we're addressing it dramatically reduces any stress that might come from it. So stress comes from ignoring things that you shouldn't be ignoring, I think, in large part. So stress doesn't come, people get stress wrong all the time, in my opinion. Stress doesn't come from hard work, for example. You can be working incredibly hard and loving it. And likewise, you can be out of work and incredibly stressed over that. So, and likewise, if you kind of use that as an analogy for what I was just talking about, if you're out of work, but you're going through, a disciplined approach of, a series of job interviews and so on and working to remedy that situation, you're going to be a lot less stressed than if you're just worrying about it and doing nothing. One thing I find very motivating, and and I think this is probably a very common form of motivation or motive or cause of motivation, is I love people counting on me. And so, today it's so easy to be motivated because we have millions of customers counting on us at Amazon.com. We've got thousands of investors counting on us. And we've got, we're a team of thousands of employees all counting on each other. And so and that's fun.
My dad was a professor, happened to be a professor of computer science. And, we had computers sort of lying around the house from a really early age. Like, I think I was the first kid in my elementary school to turn in a word processed document. So, and I just enjoyed using this stuff, so it was sort of lying around and got to play with it. And I had an older brother who was interested in it as well. So I think I had kind of a unique environment that most people didn't have, because, my dad was willing to spend, all his available income on buying a computer or whatever. Really, it was like 1978 when I was 6. And so I don't think there's many people my age who've had that experience, or anyone in general. And from very early age also I realized I wanted to invent things. And so I became really interested in technology, and also then soon after in business, because I figured that inventing things wasn't any good. You really had to get them out into the world and have people use them, right, to have any effect. So probably from when I was 12, I knew I was going to start. We didn't start out to do a search engine at all. In late 1995, I started collecting the links on the web, because my advisor and I decided that would be a good thing to do. And we didn't know exactly what I was going to do with it. But it seemed like no one was really looking at the links on the web, which pages link to which pages. And computer scientists love big graphs, and this is like, right now it has like 5 billion edges and 2 billion nodes, so it's a huge graph. And I figured I could get a dissertation and do something fun and perhaps practical at the same time, which is really what. Well, I think the age is a real issue. I mean, it's certainly a handicap in the sense of being able to manage people and to hire people and all these kinds of things. Maybe more so than it should be. And certainly, I think, the things that I'm missing are more things that you acquire with time. Like if you manage people for 20 years or something like that, you pick up things. So certainly lack experience there, and that's an issue. But I sort of make up for that, I think, in terms of understanding where things are going to go, having vision about the future, and really understanding the industry I'm in and what the company does, and also sort of the unique position of starting a company and working on it for 3 years before starting the company, and working on it pretty hard. So the whatever 24 hours a day, and so I understand a lot of the aspects pretty well. So it's kind of I guess that compensates a little bit for lack of skills. Well, I think Google is great because it's basically artificial intelligence would be the ultimate version of Google. So if we had the ultimate search engine, it would understand everything on the web. It would understand exactly what you wanted, and it would give you the right thing. And that's obviously artificial intelligence. It would be able to answer any question basically, because almost everything is on the web, right? And so we're nowhere near doing that now. However, we can get incrementally closer to that, and that's basically what we work on. And that's tremendously interesting from an intellectual
I was really
standpoint.
interested in computers ever since I got one when I was in elementary school. And eventually I went on to join the PhD program in computer science at Stanford. And it was purely, the interest of what can you do with all of the world's information now that it's online. That interest spawned Google, and that was together with Larry Page, who's my co-founder and partner. I think as a kid, I always had a kind of scientific curiosity. I was always interested in mathematics, and I always enjoyed doing math problems. And in fact, my undergrad, I had a degree in both math and computer science. And I think eventually I was really inspired by computers because of the amazing power that they give you. Today's PCs do 1 billion operations per second. It's almost inconceivable. And I think that was the most inspiring thing to me, how you could leverage that to actually produce something that was, that was useful beyond video games. At Google, our mission is to make the world's information accessible and useful, and that means all of the world's information, which now in our index numbers over 1 billion documents. And it's an incredible resource. I mean, in history, you have never had access to just, pretty much all the world's information in seconds. And we have that now, and to make it really useful, you have to have a good way of finding whatever it is that you want. And that's precisely what we work on at Google. And my hope is to provide instant access to any information anybody ever wants. I was fortunate to be at Stanford, and I was really interested in data mining, which means analyzing large amounts of data, discovering patterns and trends. And at the same time, Larry joined Stanford in '95, and he started downloading the web, which is, turns out to be the most interesting data you can possibly mine. And our joint effort, just looking at the data out of curiosity, we found that we had technology to do a better job of search. And from that initial technology, we got really interested in the problem, and we realized how impactful having great search can be. And so we built technology upon technology after that to bring Google to where it is today, and we continue to develop lots of technology for tomorrow.
Right, and the idea is that when you give people this ability to stay connected with all the people they care about, and you make it so that they can express new things about themselves or in communication with other people who they care about, then you just open up all these new possibilities. You make it so people can stay connected in ways that they couldn't before. They can learn about new things, whether it's events that are happening in the world, or ability to organize new things, or learn about new products, or new movies, or music that they want to listen to. It opens up a lot of new possibility when you can keep all of these connections open to the people that you care about. So obviously a big part of our mission is just connecting all these different people in the world. And one of the things that we are really proud of is that now 800 million people around the world are using Facebook every month, and perhaps even crazier. It's mind-blowing from my perspective, but more than 500 million people use Facebook every day. Yeah, I think that those are all just core human needs, and until Facebook, there wasn't a great tool for doing that. But I think that a lot of that and building that up was the last 5 years. I think the next 5 years is going to be about, okay, now you're connected to all these people. Now you can have a better music listening experience. You can have a better movie watching experience. You can see what your friends are reading and learn what news you should read first. All of these things I think are gonna get better, and that's the thing that I'm most excited about for the next 5 years. And if we do well, I think 5 years from now, people are really going to look back and say, wow, over the last 5 years, all these products have now gotten better because I'm not doing this stuff alone, I'm doing it with my friends. It's that social media's role is maybe a bit overblown in that. I mean, the way that I think about it is that if people want change, then they will find a way to get that change, right? So whatever technology they may or may not have used was neither a necessary nor sufficient case for getting to the outcome that they got to, but having people who wanted change was. So, I mean, I hope that Facebook and other internet technologies were able to help people, just like we hope that they help them communicate and organize and do whatever they want to every single day. But I don't pretend that if Facebook didn't exist, that this wouldn't have been possible. Of course, we really are focused on users first and for the long term, right? We believe that if we build a product where people can connect and can express all the things that they want about themselves, that over the very long term, we'll have a lot of people doing that, because that's a core human thing where people want to do that, and they'll be very active, and we'll have opportunities to sell advertising and do all these things and build a great business. But none of that is the leading thing that we're pushing for. What we're pushing for is the mission. We think that if we succeed on that, then we're going to build a great business. Now, if I just think that there's this core part of people where they want to express things about themselves. So the question isn't, what do we want to know about people? It's, what do people want to tell about themselves? One of the core things that flows through all of this is that I'd say that probably at this point still the vast majority of people don't want to share everything, or don't even want to share anything with everyone publicly. But if you give people tools so that they can share with just their friends, or just one group of friends, I think that people go through a learning process too, where, I mean, maybe when social networks were first ramping up on the web, some people shared a few things too broadly, but I think that that's part of the reason why I think Facebook has grown, is I think Facebook largely existed after that, the Friendster and the MySpace phase of the social web, and at a point where people were already sophisticated enough to realize, hey, I want to share different things with different people. I'm going to use these privacy controls that Facebook has given me, that Facebook is really the first company that has built these controls, so that you can share things with just your friends, or I can share vacation photos from my family vacation with just my family if I want, or I can do all these different things. And I think that that's one of the big enablers on this. The real question for me is, do people have the tools that they need in order to make those decisions well? And I think that it's actually really important that Facebook continually makes it easier and easier to make those decisions, because the demographics of people who are using Facebook are changing as well, right? And we started off with these people in college, right, who use computers every single day, and now, as we're up to 800 million plus users, we have people using the site who it's one of the only things that they do on a computer, and maybe they're not computer savvy, right, or they don't want to spend a lot of time trying to figure out privacy controls. So what we've done in the last year is we've made it so that anytime you go to share anything, the privacy control is now right there, and it says exactly who you're going to share with. If you're going to be sharing publicly, there's a little globe, and it says the word public. And if you're going to be sharing with friends, there's this icon of a few people, and it says the word friends, and you can just click, and you can change that really easily every time you post anything. And back when we were getting started 7 years ago, I don't know if that was necessary, because the college students and early adopter type folks just had this intuitive understanding of how the service worked. But now, I just think that the boundaries, it's getting more and more important to be increasingly clear and give people those controls. And that's what we're trying to do. And I don't think we're at the end. I think we're going to need to keep on making it easier and easier. But that's our mission, right? I mean, we have to do that, because if people feel like they don't have control over how they're sharing things, then we're failing them. I mean, we're making it so they can't share a lot of the stuff that they want to.
Skating.
Meet Henry C., a humble Chinese shoe salesman turned multi-billionaire. C is known as Southeast Asia's king of shopping malls for creating what he calls malls for the masses, complete with skating rinks, amusement centers, and bowling alleys. Henry C. has continued to strike it rich despite the Asian economic crisis.
As long as you can provide what they need, what they want, and they will always come back.
In the past 2 years, C's company, SM Prime, had annual earnings growth of 19%. That's one of the highest rates for any firm in the Philippines. One reason, hard work. At age 73, C spends his weekends inspecting his shopping malls. And every week, he still picks which shoes are sold in his chain of Shoe Mart stores.
But this has been going and come and go.
Fashion comes and goes.
Yeah, so many years it will come back.
It'll come back. 50 years ago, young Henry C. had a simple dream: sell a pair of shoes to every Filipino and get rich. He did that and much more. From shoes, he opened department stores. Next, he started a chain of supermarkets, stocked with his own brand of generic household goods. Then he built the first malls ever in the Philippines, including what he claims is the biggest in all of Asia.
It just feels like home, strange as it is.
Prices here are cheaper than the other stores,
Visit one of Henry C.'s 7 malls in the Philippines, and it's easy to ask, what Asian economic crisis? His chain is so successful that he plans to build 2 new malls every year for the next 5 years. And now, C is building what he hopes will be the biggest mall in the world. The crisis has actually helped Henry C. expand his market share. His malls have attracted high-income shoppers wanting more bang for their buck. And analysts say malls, with their wide range of stores, are a good, diversified investment during recessions.
Plus the fact mall expansion at the time that the property sector is at its possibly lowest is possibly also one of the wisest investments to undertake.
C expanded without borrowing, and he stuck to his core business of running malls. He runs them by picking reliable tenants, namely himself. His own stores make up 1/3 of the malls. Entertainment makes up another 20%. With the rest of the tenants, he doesn't pick the highest bidder. He picks tenants who can sell what customers want. That's because he takes a chunk of sales instead of a fixed rent. C has groomed his children to take over, but he has no plans to retire.
I won't be still working if I'm not happy.
He's happy that when he builds it, they will come.
The symbol of success is actually how I started. I started at the age of 15 during the war, and bought a second-hand bicycle and started pedaling to all the markets around Cebu with 30, 40 kilometers radius. When you start at the age of 15 with no experience and no capital, you learn a lot in going up. In competition, you're in charge of everything. You buy, you sell, you're the warehouse man, bookkeeper, treasurer. So you learn. You realize that with hard work, honesty, and perseverance, you can compete. And that was what I was able to do as a young boy.
In 1957, you decided to start your cornstarch manufacturing business.
I started at 1955, but the plant ran in 57. I was then 30 years old, and that was my first venture into manufacturing. It was a tough one. I had to compete against the biggest manufacturer in Cebu. In the end, we made it.
What made you think that you could have succeeded?
You don't think. You just believe in yourself, and you see all the figures and figure out in yourself. At that time, I didn't have a complete study. Now we have an office full of analysts and all that. I did it on my own. I realized that I can compete, and I did it.
Have your entrepreneurial instincts ever let you down?
No.
Not at all?
It's good for me. I love going to new things. I love competition. I really love competition.
Tell me what guides your business decisions.
Well, first, instinct. And then, now, the last 20 years, complete studies, but I think there's too much studies, too much paperwork. But still, it's good. It shows your pros and cons, and work on it. That's how we go into new businesses. Like we bought a drugstore chain 2 weeks ago, a sugar mill.
Was it that was the common factor in your decision-making for the purchase of these three?
But it has a chance of making money, and that it has a future. The important thing is the future. If it's only short profits, no, we don't bother.
Do you plan to look outside of Asia?
Outside Asia, I think we better digest what we have first, But our branded goods, like our crackers, our biscuits, our snacks, they're very exported to even Japan, Korea, the Middle East. We are exporting a lot,
So you never really just travel for leisure? You're always on the lookout for opportunities?
I travel for leisure, but in addition to that, I must have as business purpose. I cannot enjoy just leisure, It's good to go to the museum, to plays, to the beach, but at the same time, to look at factories and new products. Most of our businesses are from my visits to foreign land, a lot of our business. Like our snack food, same thing. I was in the hospital in Massachusetts in 1954, and I saw a magazine selling snack machines. So I said, must be something nice. So I went to the supermarket and bought some snacks. I liked it. So I contacted the machine manufacturer in Denver, and we agreed. He delivered the machine. In 6 months, we were in business. Things like that. You learn a lot when you travel.
You mentioned that you enjoy competition.
I love it.
Why? What is it about competition?
My blood really, my system reacts better to competition, because otherwise you'll just be sitting down at a table looking at nothing.
But I did start out very poor, and as you know the story, my dad was a policeman. He made $142 a month. which wasn't enough to put food on the table. We had to work 2 or 3 extra jobs, security jobs for us to live. My mother was a housewife. And in East Los Angeles, in the barrio, outside near central Los Angeles, but outside downtown Los Angeles. For 40 years I've been in business, and for almost all those 40 years I've been pretty successful. And in the last 20 years I've been a high-performance coach, where I find people like yourself that need a little extra motivation, which she never needed, but a little extra direction, which she still needs. That's why I was so excited when you approached me about a year ago now with your new project here in the Philippines. And yes, I am a taker of online but I'll get into that in a few minutes. What I see in my life all over the world, and I've been in business in all the continents of the world, is that people give up too easily. And they don't have role models. They don't have mentors. And I believe very strongly in the mentor system.
I do too, Dan. I do. I mean, without you, I don't think I would ever pick up the pieces,
Well, thank you very much. But I think you would have. I just maybe helped you a little, as did Leon and probably several others. She has the ability to build a very loyal cadre, as evidenced by the audience here today, and as evidenced by her TV show. And that's one of the qualities that Susan has. And it's a special quality because everybody listening to this understands it's not easy. It's not easy to be up all the time. It's not easy to be vibrant all the time. And the thing that I've done the last 20 years especially is help people understand what it is to be a high-performance person through role models and through people like the late Steve Jobs, the current Bill Gates, amongst others, Ford, Edison, and I could go through a whole bunch of names. But what everybody needs is, because everybody stumbles, everybody trips,
yes,
everybody falls.
Yes.
And the key is not that you just get up. A lot of people can get up. It's how quickly you get up, how long you feel sorry for yourself, how long you're depressed, how long you allow the bad thing that happened to you, and bad things happen to good people all the time. How long you allow that to sit in your mind and fester. And that's the key between a high-performance person and a non-high-performance person. And I tell the results, and I work with Olympic athletes, world champions, etc. In the 2000 Olympics, the 2 runners fell in the 110 hurdles, 2. One fell, felt sorry for herself, female up to 110 hurdles, and was down 1.2 seconds. She came in 3rd. One fell and was down 1/10 of a second and came in 1st.
Wow.
The one, and you wouldn't think 1.2 seconds is a lot of time to worry about it, but when you're running in the Olympics, it's a long, long time. But her life went in front of her. It took her 1.2 seconds, and she only finished 3rd. And her lament, her regret that she carries for the rest of her life, I was ahead in the race, and if I just gotten up quicker, if I stopped feeling sorry for myself, because we all have reasons to feel sorry for ourselves, because we all have regrets. Just like you and I have had. And the difference between you and I and a lot of the people that are watching this on TV.
You look better than me.
Thank you. Thank you. I don't think that's true. But we bounce back. And I've written a very successful book, Your First 100 Million, but I could write tens of 20 or 30 books on all the mistakes I've made. Not many people believe that, but they focus on your successes and the very things that we worry about, what people might think of us, what people are going to say about us when we fail. And failure is part of success. And the road to success is always under construction.
Yes.
Always. And you've proven that here. And you've built up a great following and a great business in just about a year, more or less. And I learned fairly young, in my early 30s, because I'm 67 years old now, in my early 30s, that you can't have a dream come true unless you have that dream. And so I dreamt about getting out of the body when I was younger and about being more successful as I got older. And I thought, what's the biggest bodacious goal I could come up with at the time? I thought, well, how about a castle on an island?
Wow.
And considering I came from about 600 or 700 square foot house in East Los Angeles, a castle on an island was a pretty big goal. That was in April 1983, and I moved into Guthrie Castle, Scotland in August the 30th of 1984.
Wow. Wow. Wow.
A lot of things had to happen for that to occur, but when you start thinking that way, and you start thinking that raising the bar and making the benchmarks higher and higher and higher, not just for yourself, but for your family, for your employees, for your partners, etc., etc., it happens because it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. I believe very much in affirmations. I still do my affirmations every night before I go to sleep, along with me saying my prayers. My kids, we just spent Christmas with them on a cruise, my wife and I, and my kids, I think, question. They believe I believe in affirmations and repeating my goals every night. But they don't believe that I still say prayers every night, which is wrong because I do. I do. And so when I tell people if I still say prayers, and I still, more importantly, because a lot of people, this is a very Catholic country, I'm a Roman Catholic, so I understand. So you understand the prayer bit, so I'm not going to focus on that. But the affirmation bit is just as important to me as the prayer bit.
And for those, Dan, who does not know about affirmation, well, can you tell me in 30 seconds what affirmation is?
Okay, an affirmation is, let's say you're an athlete and you want to run a 4-hour marathon. I feel good about seeing myself cross the tape in 3 hours and 58 minutes in the marathon. And you say that every single night and you visualize it. I feel good about running 3:58 or crossing it in less than 4 hours. The same thing in making money. The same thing. I feel good about, for example, my wife. I feel good about being married to Sally, and before I was married to her. I feel good about being on this television program with you, a mentee that I helped several years ago and continue to help. So you see the things that you want to happen to you in time future, but you see it in the present. Hi, it's Dan Pena again. I hope you enjoyed the video. There were a lot of interesting people, and the whole object of this process is, again, as I said in the introduction, to get you to understand and give you an idea how it's differentiated here at Izone Technologies in Manila. We set high standards, we expect people to fulfill those high standards, and then we reward you for fulfilling those high standards. You now know a little bit more about how we think. You now know that we are a high-performance organization, and we produce high-performance people, which is different than probably many of the organizations that you work for, or even interview for that matter. But the important thing is no one person can be perfect, but a team can be. And we have a team spirit here, a team camaraderie, and we hope that you join us at Izone Technologies here in the Philippines. And good luck to you and Godspeed. Thank you very much.